This is Soundwave Society on Yellow Days. What's that?
All right, welcome to Soundwave Society. We have a very special guest today. It is Yellow Days. Thank you for joining us. All right, so we are here in Vancouver, BC, at the Hollywood Theatre. We're kind of in the middle of your West Coast swing here. How's the start of your tour going?
It's been great, man. We just been doing a really funny show. It's there's lots of theatrics, and there's kind of a character that I created called the Concierge, who's kind of doing these kind of surrealist monologues, and so it's all very art studenty and odd and fun, which for me is like really great because I dropped out of school when I was like 16 and I always wanted to do like English lit and philosophy and stuff like that. So to be able to just kind of like digress and get into a bit of like surrealism is really fun.
Mm-hmm.
There's a concept record about being in a hotel, so that like there's this kind of great kind of hotel, and it's a little bit spooky, a little bit like
yeah, no kidding.
But yeah, man. So no, it's great, and we're kind of in the brain fog part of the tour where everything becomes a bit funny and you don't know your left hand from your right hand, and it's a bit odd, which adds to the surrealism, I suspect. But yeah, man. You
mentioned the brain fog, and you have Portland tomorrow night, and then a couple days off after that. How do you spend those days off on tour when you're not playing?
Well, I'm funny. Like days off actually make me feel more tired. I'd rather just get into the kind of manic tour thing where you go a little bit funny. Because I mean, like me and my band, we do drink a lot, we party, we have a lot of fun, and at the moment you slow down, it's like it all hits you like a ton of bricks. So I try and just carry on the party until right at the end, because and then when I get home, I just sleep for like many days. I was just sleeping before we started doing this a little bit, so I'm trying to
just go
catch little bits of sleep, then have a beer, carry on. That's kind of how I do it. It's not exactly like the kind of modern. Like a lot of bands, like smoothies and a lot like me time and all that shit. I'm kind of like just a piece of shit. I just kind of just smoking cigarettes and drinking and just doing myself dirty. But I think it adds to the show probably. Like I said, everything's a bit manic in this gig that we're doing, so maybe that's a good thing.
We caught your set in Seattle last night, and that definitely comes through. You can see the looseness, the relaxedness, and it makes for a great show. But as far as Hotel Heaven goes, it's been out just over a month now. I'm curious how that's settling in for you.
Feels great, man. It's the first album I've done in a long time, since lockdown. So yeah, it feels really good, and it's a very different sound. It's very rocky. It's very kind of John Lennon inspired, and it's a lot of the music of my youth, like the Beatles and Pink Floyd, and a lot of like British rock music. Really, it was like kind of the big influence. Kind of became sort of like Americanized by like touring here and living, like spending loads of time here. That like it was nice over lockdown to get all English again. And so I just kind of had a bit of like a kind of almost like a identity crisis, I think, at some point where I was like, well, I am actually English, right? I started to feel like an American, which was weird. And then now I kind of realised like that's not me at all. But no, so yeah, it's been great, and it's a fun album. It's squeaky, weird vocal performance, which is nice and challenging, and I love singing, so every day we get to perform. That's just great. I mean, it's like a full body workout for my voice, this set. So it's like I feel like it just makes me a better singer every night. So I'm loving that. Has
your interpretation of the album changed at all over time? Like when you were in the creative mode, did you have a favorite song then that has maybe changed at this point?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think there's a tune called "Crying for Help," which I really love doing, which I think is really it's just one of those. It suits my kind of voice, and it's one of those that live you can just really kind of belt it. But the record was really about like a really kind of self-destructive time for me. Like back in London, I was just kind of like partying and just kind of doing nothing and kind of just in like a bad spiral, and it's like to now be doing it like in front of like smiling faces and stuff is funny, but it's just, that's kind of the beauty of music, isn't it? It's like you kind of write all this kind of macabre, dark music, and then you go out and everyone's like, hey,
yeah,
and then you're like, everything's alright. So yeah.
So Hotel Heaven, as you mentioned, it's described as a dystopian world, and it's set in the clouds where the rich go to live out their isolated and mediocre lives. There's a natural element to your music that it takes me kind of otherworldly in a way, kind of takes you out of your body and it takes you to a place. So conceptually, Hotel Heaven, giving you an actual location that it takes you to, it's a very cool feeling. Can you speak on the evolution of Hotel Heaven conceptually and where along the lines of while you were creating the album it started to come together?
For sure. It's like, the pink doors were a big thing when I was making it. I was just getting really into sort of like party drugs and party life, and it was just a real like kind of silly time for me, and I think like I just started getting obsessed with the pink doors. I mean, they started to feel like kind of like pleasure, like kind of like this like this alluring like thing that wants to like pull you in, and then I think that kind of like that sense of like something that's kind of not good for you but just kind of almost pull you in, like addiction or something like that. Start to kind of see that in like wealth and the desire to get richer, or like for a musician to have more people like you, and this kind of like insatiable like greed, I guess. So then, I was making music in this block of flats in Brick Lane, and I was just looking at myself and kind of wanted to just have a go at myself. You know what I mean? Like I was kind of seeing myself as this kind of jaded singer, and I was like, I kind of want to, take a stab at myself and be like, I'm just living in this nice flat, like just kind of wasting my time away, and like that's kind of how I felt about myself and about like kind of the latte laptop culture that I was like living in, and I was just like, I just feel like I had this kind of like anti-money, anti-luxury. I was just like looking at everything and just being like, this is all a load of shite, like what am I doing? And I kind of just wanted to really just have a go at myself, and then as I started doing it, it's like you start feeling like I was in this hotel, and the concierge, kind of the character, is like kind of important to me. It's like it's this kind of like a Jiminy Cricket kind of character, like a kind of like a Greek tragedy, like the chorus and the Greek tragedy, like they know everything, they kind of like tell the story as it goes, and so it all starts to become this really kind of manic, thing. And I think with all concept records, it's like, maybe like, for the artist, it's like this world that's kind of hard for people to peer into, apart from like through videos and things like that. But like it was definitely for me just a kind of, I guess just like a kind of manic vision that like just felt like creatively exactly where I wanted to be, and so it was just kind of like this mad moment, which now is this like nice pink vinyl that like I like to hold and promote to the world. But yeah, man. So and it feels for me like getting old. I've been doing this since I was 16, Yellow Days, and it's like I'm like nearly 10 years on, and it's like I can kind of just use my adult brain, which is nice. Like when I was a kid, like I was like stuck with this like teenager mind. I was like, I was kind of conscious of that. Like I find things like overwhelming, and it's like now like I'm a bit older, and you can kind of just like deal with things that are more abstract and more kind of intense, I suppose, and like it's less biographical music, more kind of abstract, which is nice. It's like feels like real kind of adult creativity, and which I think is like a new era for me. It's like now, from now on, I can kind of develop that kind of maturity. Because it's hard to kind of, when you come up in music as a kid, it's kind of hard to switch gears into the adult phase of your career, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. It's like trying to find my place as like a grown up. Because I've always been like the young guy who like sings with a deep voice, or now I'm like just a man. And so, I think that's weird. Better figure out how that works. And yeah, like I said, it's just always been a whirlwind since I started. So I'm just now kind of waking up and realizing like my feet are on the ground and I've got to do something. So yeah, it's a life pursuit for me, music. It's like I've got to kind of go through all these different phases, and this feels like the beginning of a new chapter for me after the last 7 years.
I actually I read in an interview that your father gave you advice before you started as Yellow Days, that it was actually more of a warning in a way, that music's just a terribly lonely journey at times. So is that advice sort of ringing true at this stage in your career?
I mean, well, it's funny, now that I'm older, I think it's like I've managed to kind of get over the hump of that. It was when I was a kid, I dropped out of school and kind of just became in this like isolated position and touring and all this kind of stuff, and it was incredible. It was really lonely, and I think that's a crazy thing for a young person to do, is just to kind of go on there, like sort of just be completely on their own and do something completely on their own, which is kind of a crazy thing to do at a young age, because you're supposed to go to university or whatever it is and be around your friends, or like all these kind of different stuff and people your own age and things like that. But no, and it was a lonely time, but at the same time I was getting to do what I love to do, so, but it was like a profound bit of advice that rang very true. But now I'm kind of in that latter stage of all of that, where I've kind of been through the identity crises and crises, and there's a long time where I kind of didn't know who the hell George was, because everyone just called me Yellow Days. Do you know what I mean? It was like and I just kind of isolated from a lot of friends, and just kind of everyone moved in different directions, and that was kind of all that I was to anyone was the music. Do you know what I mean? So it was weird to try and figure out like, hey, who the fuck am I? Do you know what I mean? In all of this. But yeah, I got there in the end, and now I'm doing like nice like mid-20s stuff with my friends, like swimming in a lake and you know what I mean, like going away for the weekend to somewhere like not far away, and dinner, like having dinner parties, and not really dinner parties, but come around for dinner, and things like that, like which you never do when you're a kid. You know? So yeah, no, I've kind of figured out my life a little bit now, which is good. As well, I have this funny thing where I feel there's like kind of 7-year cycles in your life, at least in mine, and they say like every atom in your body changes every 7 years or something like that, and I kind of really feel that. So I feel, in a way, I feel 16 again right now. It's weird. I just feel like it's all, I like kind of, it's all the money you earn, all the things you do, and all the like experiences you have to have them all over again. I think like there's no nothing you never complete. Do you know what I mean? It's always this ongoing thing, and I feel that I'm at the beginning of a new cycle, in my life, and I think it's challenging, but I'm going to do it, determined.
Yeah, and, that's awesome.
Sing songs and make people happy and shit.
So back to the album, Finer Things in Life. It feels very cathartic as the listener. I'm curious, a song like that, what does it make you feel?
Yeah, it's kind of this rejection of money and like I've never liked the nice things really in life. I'm kind of a little bit of a dirtbag. Like I'm quite happy with like just like scruffy shoes and like stains on my clothes, and I don't really give a shit about things like that. Do you know what I mean? And I can't really stand like food, talking about food and things. That really bores me. You know what I mean? Like people were talking about like how they like to saute thing. I just can't be fucked. I eat pizza and cheeseburgers and you know what I mean. And I just like drink all night. I'm just like I'm not like I don't like the finer things. I find it pretentious. You know, people talking about different types of wine and cuisines and things like that. It just bores me, you know. So and I kind of am quite stubborn like that. So yeah, and you know, I moved to such a kind of yuppie part of London that you're surrounded by things like that. So I think I was kind of annoyed by all this stuff, you know. And I was like, well, I just wanted to say, like, I don't give a shit about any of that stuff, and because there's a lot of, you know, everyone just kind of wants to be like this well-to-do, like rich, successful person, and I kind of wanted to present a different image, you know, like in culture, because there's quite a, you know, singular message at the moment going around that's like, hey, make money, be healthy, like all this kind of shit, and it's like, well, that doesn't say anything about your character. Do you know what I mean? Are you a nice person? Do you know what I mean? So things like that I think are more important than, you know, how skinny you are or you know, how nice your flat is or whatever. Like, I think things like that aren't important, you know. So yeah, that was kind of me just getting a little bit angry and making like a smooth rock song about it.
It feels like it. It definitely feels like it. That's definitely settled in as one of my favorites off the record.
And you know, and also that kind of theme alongside that, it's kind of, you know, saying that like all I care about is like being with like my loved one. Do you know what I mean? And like being with her and just hanging out with her. It's kind of you know, Nina Simone. My baby just cares about me or whatever. It's like kind of like that, but the other way around. In that song, if you turned it inside out, you know, it's like she's saying in the tune, she's like, you know, he like, I love him. All he cares about is hanging out with me. He can't be bothered with fine things and clothes, and he'd rather spend his money and time with me. And it's like that's kind of like that's pretty much what I'm saying, like inside out on my tune. It's like that's the kind of guy I am or whatever. So yeah, and that's one of the things in life. Yeah.
So your recording process, it was over the span of a month and just locked away in your home.
Yeah.
You mentioned that "Crying for Help" is one of your favorites off the record. It feels like a very rock bottom part of the album. I'm curious how such an isolated recording process can sort of affect a song like that and how it sort of bleeds into the music.
Sure, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's like, if you're working in a home studio, you just kind of, I mean, I just sit around sort of drinking and chain smoking, and, you know, it's like, it can be a very, you know, if you want it to be, it can be a very somber environment, you know, and, you know, like, I think maybe it's hard to say, but like I think it's quite easy to lose some emotion in like a kind of, you know, traditional studio space. You know, like a kind of really suave, nice place might kind of, you know, sap a little bit of the romance out of what you're trying to say if you're talking about like, you know, your own kind of downfalls or pitfalls. I think it's easier to do things like that in your own home, I think, because it's closer to sort of where your heart is. And if you're feeling kind of you know, unhappy and in a bad way, then I think it's probably best to write music like that and record it inside your own house, you know, because yeah, it's kind of like where all the bad feelings kept. And I think if you're going to put that on a record, then it should probably be in that space. And I think, yeah, it's like, you know, if you like, music can be a great way to kind of iron out your depression. And I think yeah, it's like, you know, it's that romantic image of like a painter working in their like studio or something, and it's like same thing as music, where you're just kind of, you know, you'll be working on this song and you're just kind of hunched over, like staring at it, listening to it, and you can kind of obsess and think about it in a different way. And yeah, so I think for me it's like, you know, that was kind of, you know, the way it came about was just being in a really low, you know, part and place in my life, and, you know, and just sitting in this home studio. And I think I do think that probably does contribute.
With Hotel Heaven, you sort of moved into a different direction collaboratively as far as your other albums.
Yeah.
I'm curious if that was a decision sort of to complement the idea that you're trapped in this hotel all alone, isolated. Is that sort of what you were going for?
For sure, yeah. I think I think, there's a lot that goes into that. It's like, why didn't I work with loads of other musicians? It's like, I think because I probably wanted to just make it on my own, first of all, but then also because I'd learned a lot from a lot of great players, and like I said, I was, kind of 25 now, and it's like, I kind of wanted to, put I'm a self-taught musician, so I learn by watching and by doing, so like, I picked up a lot of great stuff from a lot of great players who give me time and space to watch them play and write with them, and like great drummers and bassists and like who play in like top tier, records and everything. And I think I just wanted to kind of like test, my chops and try that out. But then also, it was, like I said, a very kind of depressive, mad time for me. So having said all of that, maybe like it was like this thing where I didn't want to put it into like the kind of the music industry per se, it was like I kind of just wanted it to be this kind of teenagery kind of fuck fest of sadness, do you know what I mean? And I think that it's also hard to kind of, like develop a sound from scratch, like a brand new one with a group of players, unless that is the sound, is that their contributions to the, like trying to pull out this kind of like John Lennon-y, kind of Led Zeppelin-y sound, and it's like, like the tone of the drums and everything is like part of that, this kind of sharp, tinny aesthetic to the music was like kind of the basis of Hotel Heaven. It's kind of like, it sounds like it's kind of recorded on a potato, like it just sounds a bit shit, which I think is quite nice, do you know what I mean, like for me at least. And so
kind of ties into finer things, the message there.
It's just like, it's this kind of like slightly distorted, troubled sounding music, which I think is like exactly what I wanted it to be, because I've done a lot of like 70s like smooth production that's very warm and nice, and I just wanted this to sound like kind of like shit, you know what I mean? And like for me that would be like the appropriate thing for the record. Reminds me of like some 60s like Studio One kind of stuff, or something like Alton Ellis or something, like where it's just a bit like, just like sounds like it was recorded on a potato.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of important for me.
So you mentioned earlier, now just about 10 years into your career. I'm curious how your outlook or approach has changed creating new music as opposed to it did back then, earlier in kind of the harmless melodies era of your music.
For sure. I mean, it's crazy, like, I'm just very much a grown, like, I've been brought up in music, so when I first started making music, it was this determination that this would be my, my vocation and the thing I love to do. And I was I always had a very intense relationship with writing, and writing music has always just been like a kind of a part of my life since I was like a little kid. Writing, shit tunes on my acoustic guitar when I was like 10 years old, and I've just kind of always loved writing music, and I've seen it as a kind of necessary part of my personality, and it's like kind of not happy unless I'm doing that. And how has it changed? It's like, I guess you get older and you start to listen to so many different types of music. When I was first starting music, all I listened to was blues and soul music and kind of like the lo-fi scene, like Mac DeMarco and Tame Impala and all that kind of stuff. And then now, like you grow up and get into like funk and disco and, jazz fusion and, and then now I've just kind of listened to like nearly every type of music, you kind of, I think that's like something you do in your 20s naturally, do you know what I mean? Is you kind of just absorb like so much stuff, like film, music and stuff, and then you start reading the newspaper and you're like, fucking hell, everything's scary. So yeah, man, how's it changed? I don't know, it's weird, like, I guess, like, as a kid, what was funny is that it felt, like, really crazy to make music, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like everyone's like, well, it's so crazy you're doing that. And then now it's like, everybody makes music. So how's it changed? I don't know, do you hang out with other music? I started writing music with other people. I've got loads of friends that I, like, kind of produce for, who are kind of on their first projects, like, coming up soon. And yeah, it's just like more social, I guess. It's like I said, when I was a kid, I was just kind of isolated and just kind of doing it. And then I was, my friends would be like, getting stoned. They'd be like, man, it's so weird that you make music, man. They're just kids, do you know what I mean? Just like, I just get up like a kind of like crazy sounding like piano sound or something, like a kind of like a synth or something. I just get like my buddies like really stunned and be like, listen to this. And be like, whoa, that's crazy. And now people are like, yeah, that's vibrato, man. You know, people would like know what it is because everyone's old and intelligent now. And, but yeah, man, I don't know. It's funny. Like, I'm determined to kind of find kind of, you know, a quintessentially me sound, which I don't think I have found yet. You know, I think I'm gonna have like a few different phases in my career. You know what I mean? Where I try and do different things. I think one thing I can do is like sing. You know, and I think trying to, you know, perfect a type of music which allows me to like really do that is kind of what I'm determined to do as far as I get older, you know. And it's hard because I feel like I can write kind of any type of music, like, and that's something I'm having a lot of fun with in terms of producing, because I can kind of write, you know, I don't know, like Bootsy Collins stuff, and then kind of like write some like hip hop or whatever. I can just do like loads of different stuff, like acoustic, rock and roll, and all this different stuff. And but then when it comes to me, I'm like, well, what the fuck do I want to do? And Hotel Heaven was like a, you know, just like a spur of enthusiasm for a certain type of sound, which I think is just like kind of one installment in my career. Like, I think it's a moment, you know. I think I'm kind of in my roots, kind of like a soul, you know, R&B soul kind of musician. So to do like a kind of flamboyant rock record, just, it feels to me like a moment for me, you know, like one of those, like, if people like really give a shit, they'd be like, whoa, that's a weird album by Yellow Days, do you know? Like, it's weird. It's like, I've got loads of people I love like that. I find the record and be like, wow, what the fuck, you did a rock record? That's weird. Yeah. And so that's how I see it, really. And I think that's because I'm getting to that thing where I can kind of see, like, you know, like that this is like a long path for me, you know. I'm not like a pop star or like a teen bopper or whatever. Like, I've kind of got a long road to travel through in music, but I think I'm just really determined to try and get like a particular sound that I think I've touched on like loads of times in my career, but never quite been able to like put on a leash and make it mine. Which I think is, yeah, which is kind of the challenge, but yeah, I think I just see myself as like this guy who's gonna do something really good, but I was trying to fucking figure it out. You know? It's hard, because yeah, I think a lot of people have shown me a lot of love and believe in me, and I think it's just trying to find that particular sound that really lets me do my thing. I think that's quite hard. So I think in my head it's like, you know, the more I can kind of collect different sounds and kind of mush them together, I think I get closer and closer to that thing. And it's kind of, as a modern, you're kind of pushed to, like, you know, release and to show and to like gather, and like you know, it's kind of important for musicians to almost not do that, I think, sometimes, and to just kind of go quiet and figure it out. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, it's kind of, you know, there's a kind of a metric to success, and people expect and want you to do things and work hard, so instead of kind of maybe taking the time you need. So I think I've been definitely not a victim, but like, you know, just part of that. But like I said, yeah, it's just a pursuit to get it right, which is easier, which sounds easier than it is. But yeah, I just keep working, keep doing my thing. And is that
an active pursuit? Like, even on the road, are you always making music, or do you only really settle down and make music when you're ready to get into a body of work?
No, I do work it. And that's the thing. Is like, you know, I'm saying like, oh, maybe you should take some time and relax. And I don't do that at all. Just, you know, work on it all the time. Yeah, just kind of we jump in the studio whenever we can, and when we're on the road, and when I'm at home, I just, you know, work all day long. I just kind of bury my head in like producing for other people as well, because I find it just to be like, you know, it amuses me, it keeps me like, you know, sane, I suppose. And it's really fulfilling, you know, watching like a whole project just be born. I just love it. And developing a new artist as well who doesn't know their sound yet, like a great singer or something. developing a certain sound for them. That's like the most rewarding thing. But but I don't give myself the same time or luxury. Do you know what I mean? It's weird, and I think I definitely kind of always have that kind of like damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing with myself. Like so I'm always struggling to kind of just give myself the time to relax and to just get things in order, which like eternally disorganized, like confused man, but so yeah, I mean, but we have a good time, so that's all right.
So we were able to catch a show last night in Seattle, and one thing that we definitely picked up on is the level of comfort on stage and the family atmosphere as far as yourself, the concierge, the band goes. I'm curious where that comes from. How that relationship built between you all.
Yeah, man. My band have been with me since we were 16. My bassist and my drummer there is Milo Goldsmith, Hector Clark, and so we're like brothers, like music brothers or whatever. And yeah, so and then Hannah, the concierge, is best friend of mine from when we were 16. We used to drive around in her car and get stoned and run around in fields and have a good time and go to parties and whatnot. And yeah, then she started acting, and I also did music, and obviously I was coming to do this whole concept album, and I thought, well, Hatchin would be great, and so I spoke to her about it, and we started developing the character and the transatlantic accent, and and her like foul mouthed thing. She's like, "Fucking this is fucking ridiculous," and all this kind of shit, which we thought was really nice because it's like this. She's like prim, proper 1960s like broadcaster, but then like just like can't help but just say like just filthy things, which we thought was really funny. And but we kind of, something occurred to us when we were doing this tour. So when I was growing up, like absurdism was like such a big part of like how me and my friends like hung out. It was just trying to weird each other out and trying to like just do funny, stupid shit, like talking in like weird accents, like the transatlantic accent and all that kind of stuff, like this kind of 1960s broadcaster. We just smoke a ton of weed and try and scare each other and come up with funny voices and shit, and like these odd games that like didn't make any sense and things like that. There was one like we used to do where like if someone was kind of joining our friends who were like smoking weed with them, then we'd be like, okay, have you seen the plastic bag? And they'd be like, what? What's the plastic bag? And be like, let me show you. You get it out and it's just like nothing's there. You just put it on their head. Because as you put it on, everyone stops talking. And go, it's just mouthing. And then they start going, wait guys, stop. And they're like, what? And then it's just, it's stuff like that, which is like, it's so like kind of like British, like this, like, oh, it's so silly, so absurd, and it was like, and we just realised like that this record is like this kind of parade of that kind of way of thinking or whatever. It's just like what the fuck is this? Like, it's so strange. Like, and her, like, but she does a part of the show where she eats poo. Like, there's like a dump on a plate and she just eats it, which obviously it's not real, but it looks real. And so yeah, it's just like, I don't know, it's like, what the fuck is that? Like, I don't know. Like, it's just fun and silly and great, and it feels like communicating a bit of like what develops like kind of my attitude to like music and life and shit. And so yeah, when you said there's a family thing going on, it's because we've all known each other since we were 15, 16. And Lex, who's new addition, Lex Franch, he is going out with Hannah as well, so it's really like, and there's even like a mum and dad scenario going on, so it's very like family. So yeah, man, and we all kind of play in each other's bands and things like that, and so it's very like, we're all great friends and we all hang out and have dinner and shit, and so like, kind of we're just buddies, and we're making silly, fun stuff. So yeah, that's probably where that comes from.
Furthermore, for Hannah, her performance on stage is brilliant as the concierge. I'm curious, how essential was it for you to have her on tour with you?
Yeah, definitely, man, because yeah, it's just like we did it, in UK and stuff like that, and we were like, what do we go to America, do we do blah 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 and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, obviously, yeah, because it really does, it just feels like something really unique. It's like, I don't, we were talking about it, we were like, have you ever seen anything like that? Like, whether you think it's, great or shit or whatever, like, I don't think I've ever seen that before, like an actor just doing that the whole way through a show. Like, so it feels like we're doing something that's like genuinely like a bit like quite different and unique, and be fun to do on like the festival circuit and things like that. And it does feel, like I said, like we're just doing something that no one's done before, where you just have like an actor just kind of acting the whole time during a rock show, and like especially like with these themes of like absurdism and eating poo and things like that. I just don't think I've seen that, and it feels like we are doing something different. Whether people give a shit or not, it's different, but we're doing it. So if they like it, then it's quite funny. Like, I talk to kids after the show and they'll be like, oh, I love Yellow Days, blah blah blah. Like, part of me just wants to be like, what did you think about when she ate? Just don't even mention it. Like, did you see that?
I thought it was a sausage. I can't lie.
Maybe we need to kind of make it more obvious.
Yeah.
It's poo.
Did you know?
I was at a weird angle that was kind of. We were like right there.
This is helpful notes.
This is the important stuff.
They're going to be devastated. Everyone's going to be like, "What the fuck?"
We'll make sure we can tell tonight.
Yeah. We need to kind of. Maybe she needs to come like right down to the front. And like, there was a bit where she, in Glasgow, she like grabbed a bit off and just like came up and was like, eat it to me. And like, I knew it was just chocolate, but I still felt really sick to it.
Yeah.
It made me feel horrible. And she like put stuff in nuts in it and stuff, so it looked more real. Mm-hmm. So it's disgusting.
Are her antics just out of nowhere? She comes up with them on the spot, or like she's all over the place on stage at times, just running around doing whatever? Yeah,
well, we had this really manic hangout in London. My bassist Hector, and me and Hannah and like the band and stuff, we were like just done a rehearsal. We were just stood in this room, like we were just like steaming drunk, and we were just like looking at the set list, and we were like, we had all these ideas of theatrics and stuff. And we kind of had like loose ideas for like what she was gonna do, but like not really. So like when we just started talking, Hector's like great at thinking of things like this, and we were just kind of like steaming drunk, like I said, which is like, she eats poo, and everyone's like, that won't work. Do you know what I mean? And then we were like just kind of arguing, but like everyone's just like smiling a little bit, but like we don't really like, and it was just this crazy like kind of. Like what I imagine like writing rooms are like in like for like TV shows or something. It was like a really, really unhinged version of that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was all developed in like a few hours, but it was like, how sometimes when you're trying to brainstorm with things and it just sounds like all the ideas just sound like shit, and you just stop and you're like, okay, this was like this golden like purple patch conversation where we were just like everything everyone was saying was like, yes. And we were just flying, do you know what I mean? So yeah, we just, like I said, it was developed very quickly, but like, I have that thing with music as well, where sometimes things take ages to develop, and then other times it would literally just happen in a few minutes. Like, bang, there it is. Do you know what I mean? So it's like a good idea is a good idea, whether it's labored over for hours or if it just comes to you like straight away, and like it doesn't really matter, But like I said, it was just weird. We were all having a weird fun time. Feels good. And yeah, I think Yellow has always been such like a thing that like to just come in and just play with it and just kind of mess around with it and morph it and have fun with it and see what I can turn it into. It's just been really fun. It's like kind of like that like intrusive thought of like if you build a house of cards. Like, I'm not saying I've necessarily done this, but you just want to go just smash it down. It's like there's a part of you that just wants to kind of like grab this banana and just squish it.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to. You might want to. Just kind of see what happens. So I was kind of doing a bit of that with Hotel and it live. And probably on the record as well, probably just this morbid fascination with like, what would it be like if I did this? And kind of wanting to test audiences and things like that. So, yeah, that's kind of that.
There were some unique additions that we noticed throughout the show as well, mainly with the calls from the guests of Hotel Heaven. We noticed a couple sort of Easter eggs for your fans, one of them being a call from Rick and the other one being a call about stingrays.
That's right.
I'm curious where the ideas for those came from.
Well, yeah, we were talking about, the idea that the stage is the lobby and that we're the hotel band and that we're sat there playing, and that she's just constantly getting calls from these disgruntled guests that are just complacent and there's always something wrong, and then kind of wanted to like make this commentary about like hospitality and about like about like the way that people like for money and for work like put on a smile and like do so much like kind of like falsification of their happiness and of themselves, and they're kind of constantly like being pushed to like deal with people like with more power than them, things like that. So yeah, and we started talking about well, who's gonna call Hotel Heaven, like who's staying there, and it was like we were talking about it, and people were like Jack Nicholson and things like that. So well, that's not gonna work because it just doesn't work. Like we don't know Jack.
Yeah.
But I do know Rick, and so Rick Wilson. I'm actually wearing the T-shirt right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
From a record that we did together.
Yeah.
And yeah, Rick's my best buddy. Lives in Chicago, so I just sent him a really long text, like again probably when I was drunk, and explained like what I wanted him to do, and then he like just was like didn't send it for ages. And we spoke on the phone, and he was like, I just didn't really understand like what the fuck he wanted me to do during this really long text. It was really confusing. But no, we figured it all out, and Domenico is this actor who plays a similar kind of poltergeist figure in a band called the Stingrays that you referenced there, that is kind of a new band for me that I do with the drummer and bassist from Yellow Days. And he plays a very similar role to Hannah in the Stingrays, where he's this kind of this overseeing eye. It's kind of like, it's like a character again, so we have these kind of reoccurring characters in the music videos and things like that. And he's a lovely, lovely man, but the part for him was to be this like complacent, angry, guest who just wants the stingray. And it's like the thinking behind that was that there's this rich Italian man who's demanding to eat stingray, and that was kind of, there's not much kind of other thought that went into that. But yeah, I guess it's like his character in the Stingray like universe is like he loves us and he cares about us deeply, and he's always watching us and he wants us to be okay. He's always like caring about us. So like I guess like he like knows that we could be playing the Stingray, so he's like annoyed about that, and kind of let's more emphasize that about food. And it's just like, and it's like, the point being is that these characters are just all pissed off and they're calling up and they just want shit, and Hannah the concierge is just like constantly like being thinly spread. She's trying to please everybody, but like really she just wants to hang out with the band, and like she just can't be bothered with it anymore. And the idea is that this character, the God, is like, we call it God, is like she knows everything, and like similar to how a God, if it was to be real life, like it would have to, if God did exist, it would have to be fulfilling kind of people's like greedy, insatiable desires, like much like a concierge would or something, like, because in this world like a lot of greedy people do a lot of bad things. So it's like, if you're God and you control the universe, you'd have to let them do that, which would kind of make you sick, and you'd be like disgusted by them and annoyed by them, which is what she does. So she kind of just facilitates their greed and everything they want, but she's kind of disgusted by it all the time. And that's kind of, and like we said, she really just wants to hang out with the band and have a drink and chill out, which I imagine God probably does want to do.
So moving on to a few music club related questions before we wrap up here.
Cool.
So kind of the way our group works is we'll one of the members in the club will put forth an album for us all to listen to, and then over the span of 7 days, we listen to it, gather our thoughts, and then we meet up at the end of the week and sort of discuss the album.
Cool.
So just a couple questions sort of related to that. I'm curious if you can think of an album that someone's ever sort of gifted you in a way, like recommended you, that really made an impression with you, that you still kind of hold close to you to this day.
Ooh, that's interesting. I think as a song, I remember Kiefer, actually no, an album, yeah. Kiefer, the keyboard player from LA, I don't know if you know him, Kiefer Shackelford. He showed me an album by an artist called Don Blackman, self-titled album, and it's just the best album. And that just kind of was a crazy piece of music to listen to. It's like a jazz fusion album, beautiful tune, Holding You, Loving You, and Heart's Desire, and there's loads of tunes on there that are just like, it's just kind of like the best music, and that was one of those kind of like, you can't unhear pieces of music, and yeah, he showed me that, and that was fucking crazy. I just, yeah, now it's just like, you know, can't unhear it, and it's stuck in my head forever.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kiefer.
If you were in a music club with a group of your friends, what would be the first album that you would submit?
Probably Party Down by Lil Beaver. I think that's the name of the record. Yeah. The one on the front cover, he's just like, so he's just a short guy, and he's got like a massive guitar. He's like sat on a bar stool at a bar. I think it's called Party Down, but it's Lil Beaver. And it's just like, I love that record, I just think it's great. It's just like groove-based, funky, great singing, just a little bit of everything, spice of life kind of thing.
We have a playlist that everyone we have the pleasure of speaking to will submit a song for the playlist. Would you like to contribute to that, and what song would that be?
I'll go for Planet Earth.
Planet Earth?
Last one. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Awesome. Well, that's about it from me. I really appreciate your time. This has been it's been great, and we're really looking forward to the show tonight.
Yeah, man. Thank you for putting up with my dulcet tones.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck.